It's here, it is here, and I finally get to share it with you. Now, if you're wondering what this is something that I'm extremely excited to share with you. It's a printed version of this, my ebook that I've been working on for a long time. Now, within this video, I'm going to talk about this, and I think it's important to talk about who I am first. Now, as you'll see from the screen there, this is a guide about teaching in the UAE. If you're wondering who I am, my name is Thomas Blakemore and I'm a teacher here in Dubai within the UAE. I usually make a range of content around teaching here in Dubai, but also around sort of travel and lifestyle here and around the world too. So what I want to do in this video is sort of show you this, what's inside here, and then sort of talk through the guide that I have created, why I've created it, and how it will help you. If you haven't already checked out the channel and subscribed, please take the time to do that. It would be highly appreciated. So let's get into it. So inside here, you will see a printed version of my ebook. Now, I'm going to keep that there because I think it makes a nice background, but I thought I'd just have it printed, one, for pride reasons, because I'm extremely proud of how this has turned out, and two, so that I can go through some of the contents, because actually it has a content page. So let's jump into what is in the guide. Now, before I get into what is in the guide, I thought it's important to sort of talk about why I made this guide in the first place. Now, when I first thought about coming here to the UAE, I went through the application process, and as I've talked about in a previous video, I didn't really have a clue. And as a result, I made a few mistakes, and with my first job application, I struggled and didn't get the job. Now, it's important to understand from there, subsequently, I received 2 job offers that I gained the year after, but I learned a lot through that process, and I hope to share that with you. Now, in addition, I create a range of different content and things about teaching here in the UAE, and previous to this, I've created things about how to find jobs and things like that. Now, as a result of creating those videos, I've been in an extremely fortunate position to be able to support a range of people who have asked a range of questions about how to get a job and what things are like over here. Now, as I've been answering many of those different questions, some of the questions have started to overlap, and I found myself repeating some things, and I thought, maybe there's a guide out there that I could direct people to. And as I've started to research for different guides, I found that there's advice for teaching abroad, but not specifically teaching here in Dubai and the UAE. Where there is a guide, it's extremely expensive. And I'm talking 90% more than what you will see my guide is going for on my website, which I've now developed. I have a website, which is blows my mind, but that's amazing. So what I thought I'd do is talk about what is inside my guide, starting with sort of the why. It is a real privilege. If I could say the word out, it would make it sound even better. It is a truly amazing privilege to be in this position. And the fact that I have this guide available for people to just read and be available rather than needing to go through lots of minutes of footage is fantastic, because then you can use this to your disposal. How to use the guide is quite an important part, talking about all the different things that are included within the guide. Now, it's sort of split into 3 different parts. You've got how to understand the educational landscape and what life's like here in the UAE, and then you've got understanding where and how to find jobs and what to expect. Then you've got 3, which is all about the sort of application process and what to include and how to include those things, along with a range of different tips to support you. And then following on from that is the interview process, which is sort of included into that 3rd thing that I've mentioned. So the starting point is the educational landscape over here, talking about how things are slightly different. You know, you've got your private schools, you've got your public schools, and how they're different, and how education is a high priority due to the visions that are here within the UAE, with some essential reading too that will really help you with your application process further down the line. Then from there, talking about some of the subject differences. So the fact that we've got Arabic here, different types of Arabic, and some of the additional subjects that you might not find in the UK. From there, we talk about the pros and cons of living here in the UAE, and also the pros and cons of teaching here in the UAE. Now, this section is one I'm extremely proud of, because I have gone into a lot of depth with the pros and cons. Now, I found for me, having a pros and cons list really supported me with the process of deciding that I wanted to be here in the UAE, because I could figure out, right, the pros outweigh the cons, so actually, yeah, I really want to go for this, and I just went for it. And that's another key message from this guide is go for it. However, for some people out there, it might be difficult to find, well, what are the cons? You know, there's all these amazing things out there, but what are the cons? And there are some. I would rather someone spend a tiny fraction of amount of money to realize that this isn't the right choice for them than to go, yeah, we'll just see what it's like. Come over here, spend lots of money, spend lots of time, and then go, I made a mistake here, when they could have perhaps found some of the cons that I've integrated in my guide here. So I thought it was really important, and I'd love to hear actually that someone says, oh, from seeing your guide, I've realized that it's not quite the right choice, and you know, I've saved lots of money as a result. Who knows? But then from there, we go on to requirements to teach and the section 2 area. So from there, we're talking about the fact that you need your qualifications. What type of qualifications do you need? What types of experience do you need? What can help you with the process? All those different things that are important. In addition, we talk about what to expect from a UAE teaching package. So looking at salary, which is important, looking at housing allowance, looking at visas, medical insurance, looking at flight allowance, all those different things that you should expect from your package so that you're not caught out when you're sent a package that shouldn't be valid, if that makes sense, which can happen. So as we go from there, where to find jobs. This is something that is so difficult to do initially, and I know that I speak about TES so highly, and it is a fantastic place, and I've offered some tips to try and support with the process of application through TES, but at the same time there are so many different websites out there that can really help you find the job that is well suited to you. So the fact that there are other websites available, so you've got local websites as well as some other websites within the UK. In addition, you've got other things such as social media, really important, and actually there's some Facebook groups out there where people can go to social media such as Facebook, and it's cheaper than going to TES, so you'll find jobs there that you won't find on TES. In addition, you've got school groups, so school groups such as GEMS, where there's a range of different jobs within an area, and they can just publish those on the website without the need to publish on TES. So you'll see that there's so many different website links, and that's another key part of the ebook, is that they are links, meaning you don't have to then go and copy and paste. It's just something that you can tap on, open up a load of tabs if you want to, use it how you want to, open up all those tabs and actually filter through the different jobs that are right for you. That's exactly something that you can do with the guide, and I'm proud that that's something that you can do because it's a PDF that you can just download. So from there, agencies. Now, another key part of finding a job could be agencies. We talk about the pros and cons of agencies and what is right for you. In addition, given some different agencies that I've heard from other people, colleagues and friends that are quite reputable over here, and I've sort of amalgamated, you know when you say a word and you're not really sure where it comes from, amalgamated a range of different agencies that I've found other people have trusted. So that's on there too. In addition, a key question that I often get asked is, can you teach over here as an NQT? The answer is yes, in specific schools. And not only do I tell you the type of schools, I also list a range of different schools that you can potentially work at. Not all of them, but they're all hyperlinked too, really useful. From there then, we go on to what makes a good international school as the final part within that sort of section, and that sort of talks about the things that you need to look for when researching. So certain accreditation and other things that might make it a slightly higher profile school. Now the final section is an absolute beast of a section, really proud of it, and it's sort of talking about the application process and the interview all in one. So to start off with, we talk about job application tips to support you with your application and what you should look out for and whether or not you should copy and paste and all those different things that are important within there. From there, we look at CVs, starting off with what you should include with a CV over here, because it's a little bit different to the CVs that you would have in the UK for the reason of, you know, photos, for example. And from there, because it's quite hard to visualize, I've included an example CV that you can look at and perhaps model your CV on. In addition, there's additional CV writing tips for you to try and make the best CV possible. From there, writing a personal statement can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge, so I've given a range of different tips to support you with that process that stems across a couple of different pages. Then from there, we then talk about types of interview, because when you go for interviews here in the UAE, you're not often greeted with face-to-face interviews, because some people will be in the UK and some people might be in other areas of the world. Then it can sometimes be quite common to have online interviews. So I know I've created a previous video talking about online interviews, but I also share within my guide a range of different tips to support you with your online interviews. From there then, we also talk about interview tips. Really important to try and help you stand out with that. It's talking about the STAR approach, talking about body language, lots of different things within there to help you with your interview. And then typical interview questions. So talking about typical interview questions that you might receive during an interview that can really help you support with the process of going for an interview. I know when I go for an interview, I like to try and, it's really weird actually, I sit in front of a mirror and sort of, yeah, it is really weird. I talk to myself through some of the answers that I might give in an interview and sort of talk through those. And as I talk through them, it helps me sort of develop a better answer in my head. And it doesn't quite make sense, Thomas. And then, yeah, having those interview questions can try and support you there. I've really had to research this one though. So I've pulled different questions that people have shared on Twitter. Again, really proud of how that section has turned out, and all of them to be fair too. Now I know at the end of an interview one of the hardest things to answer is, right, have you got any questions for us? And suddenly you might go blank. So I've given you a range of different questions that you might want to consider at the end of the interview, and then followed by the conclusion, which is sort of in summary, if you want to do it, do it. And that's the one thing that I can say about the guide. If you want to teach in the UAE, please consider using the guide, because I can guarantee there's information in there that you will find useful. So by the time you watch this video, the guide is actually published on my website, teachtraveltriumph.com. I'm so proud to be able to say that. You don't understand. It's really weird at the same time. And that's the easiest way for you to get access to that. I've tried to base it on what would I have paid when I was in my NQT year, on something that would have supported me in the future. So that is available, and it actually forms part of two guides. This is the first part talking about how to get the job, and the second part, which I'm excited to share, which will be what to do now you've got a job, talking about all the different processes that you need to be aware of when you move to the UAE and things that you can do over here, and that's for another video. So yeah, it's available on my website. The link is in the description. I'll probably post it as a comment too. Feel free to ask any questions you might have below. I am so excited for this one. Please also, when you find it useful, for example, if you find a job, let me know. I cannot wait to hear the moment that someone says, oh, I read your guide, I went through using the links and I got the job. That I think it might actually make me emotional. Feel free to share it with me over on my social media, Instagram, and all those sorts of different things. I am excited for this one, guys, and hopefully you are too. So I will see you in the next video. If you haven't already subscribed, like, all those things, I'm out.